as for my near-death experience, let's start with around age 4. I was diagnosed with asthma, and my mom and dad, sought high and low for a good doctor, a specialist. In time, it got pretty severe with lots of ER visits, lots of hospitalizations. I used to tell my friends and my family that my second home was the hospital because it seemed I was there even more so than my home. I learned to adapt in a hospital setting and it just felt like family members, every time I would go back and see the same nurses and respiratory therapists and doctors. So I seemed to like take on this second family with the hospital staff because I was there so much. Um, so around age 13, this would be around 1985, I got into an asthma attack. And my mom, of course, like any other asthma attack, she would take me to the emergency room in which they would administer things like Solumedrol. They would start nebulizer treatments, put me on oxygen. At times, I would have to get epinephrine shots, or what some people know as epi. This went on for, Mom said it was like about 72 hours. But of course, when I'm in an asthma attack to that degree, all I can remember is focusing on breath to breath to breath, just fighting to breathe. With this particular asthma attack, I can't remember all the details of the reality of it, but I can tell you what happened and what I saw. And I was in a hospital room, and the eating tray that they put across the bed where you could eat your dinner meals, or some people call it the vanity table, whatever, for the hospital. They had it in front of me with a pillow, and I was leaning forward in this kind of shape like this, and I was gasping for breath, just focusing on the breathing. And at this point, I can remember having pain in my neck and shoulders and back from the force of just trying to get that next breath. Well, it seemed as though everything just went black, like I had went unconscious or something. It just, everything went black. And just as quickly as things went black, I could see myself. I could see myself sitting in that humped over shape, and I could see the rise and fall of my shoulders and my back, just gasping for this air. I could see my mom sitting beside me and holding my hand, and I could see the doctor at the foot of the bed, and he was holding a clipboard and an ink pen, and he was looking over at my mom, and he was saying that we have administered everything we know we can give her, and at this time it's just a matter of wait and see what's going to happen, and all we can do is wait at this point and make her comfortable as possible. And so just as he was saying that, it was as though I could see lights coming to me. It was like a red and green and purple and orange and everything, a yellow. And then I seen it formed like this tunnel shape around. And it was though I could see a dim light towards the end of the tunnel quite at first. And it felt as though someone had me in their hands like this. And it felt that they were just carrying me through this tunnel. And I couldn't see like a person, but I could feel that I was being held in their hands. And as we were traveling through this tunnel, that light at the end got bright. It was so bright. I could feel the pressure in my eyes, that it was just so bright. It was like a flashlight or something going in your eyes. And at the end of this tunnel, when I got to that bright light, everywhere I looked, it almost felt like I was in this room, but it wasn't a room with walls. It was like as far as your eye could see in every direction, you seen what would liken to be like a diamond. It looked like a diamond everywhere you looked. It just you could see the prisms of rainbow just sparkling and twinkling all over the place. And it looked like I was in the middle of this diamond just slowly turning or something. Well, in the center of what I say would probably be a room or something, it looked almost like a stand, or like a little table of some type. And I walked towards it because it seemed like I needed to go there. And I can remember I could look down at myself and I could see my hands, and it looked like I had a white gown of some type on. Now, I was never one for wearing dresses too much. I mean, if on occasion I had to wear a dress, I would, but apparently here I had this dress on. And I can remember looking at my hands and stuff, and I didn't see any jewelry or anything like that on me. I just seen this beautiful white gown. Well, at that time, of course, I'm walking to this podium or table type silhouette in the middle of this room. And I'm looking all around just trying to figure out where am I, but I felt like I had been there before. It was like I felt like I knew where I was, but I couldn't understand maybe why I was there again or something. So I could hear what sounded like a type of music, but it's music that we don't have here. And the only thing I've ever been able to kind of liken what it could have sounded like, closest to what we have on Earth, is a time I was watching a National Geographic or something, and it had to do with ocean technology and stuff. And these people were videoing under the sea with some dolphins and whales and stuff. And when whales make a chatter amongst themselves, you could hear like this a sound of like, ooh. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like an echoey sound, but it was beautiful there. But that's the closest thing I've ever heard that's kind of like what I heard. So, as I'm standing there and I'm just in awe of all the beauty, this crystal shapes and diamonds and rainbow prisms everywhere, I hear a voice, and it says, "Go back." And I say, "Why?" And it said, "Go back." And I said, "Why?" And it said, "You have things left undone, and it is not your time yet." And just as I said, "Why?" it was like everything went in reverse so quickly. It's like I just went back. So as I got back into my body, I remember I was in this shape still, and I could just, it was like I woke up to take this huge breath that I had been struggling so many hours to take. And my mom describes my fingers, all of my fingertips were purple and blue. I was blue around my mouth from the lack of oxygen. And it was so bad at that time that they actually had to put an IV in my foot, because all of my veins was not even working where they could even get an IV started. So I had an IV in my foot at that time. As I took the deep breath, it was like I looked around like, okay, I'm back. I wasn't for sure what had happened to me, because while I was there, I felt so loved. Like, you will never ever be able to understand the feeling until you get there. And the peace and the serenity, when you're there, it's like, that is God our Father that spoke to me. He didn't have to tell me who he was. I knew with that voice and the way it made me feel, I knew who that was. I never had to second guess that part at all. And once you're there, it's like, I today feel like God was that light. God was that rainbow. God was that crystal shimmery stuff. I feel like that was him himself. And anyway, I know that when you're there, um, you everything on earth is like so petty, so minimal, so short. Life is so short. Nothing even mattered once I was there. It was like I'd return home, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to come back. That's why I kept saying, why? Why do, in my mind, I'm thinking, I've made it home. Why do I have to go back? So, as of course, my mom was excited. I'd woke up and the doctors are, just floored, they just called it a miracle. They said, this is a sure miracle. And it wasn't but a couple of months later, I ended up being sent to National Jewish, which was a hospital in Denver, Colorado, that deals with respiratory, and it's one of the biggest research hospitals in the United States for respiratory illnesses and things like that. So at age 13, I want to think it was like a July or midsummer month, but I got sent to Denver, Colorado, in which I stayed for nearly 9 months. So almost a year I lived at this hospital. And if you can kind of just think of it like I went away to a college dorm or something, but it was all about school and medical and, testing me for what how my asthma worked. And because later we find out that all asthma is not the same. Some people do outgrow it. Some people end up with scar tissue damage in their lungs. They have obstruction areas. I mean, this just goes vast for how asthma is even treated. And now today, with science and technology and studies on it, we can treat asthma individually a lot better. But as I reached Denver, Colorado, to National Jewish, I did not tell my mom about the experience at first. In my mind, I kept kind of questioning, why did I have to come back? Why couldn't I have just stayed? I'm back in this sick body. I know it's just a matter of time and I'm going to be sick again. And I don't want to have to live in this trapped, sick body all the time. And I just knew that I felt so loved and so welcome and so peaceful that I cannot imagine having to come back and live in this world where there's so much hate and deception and, greed and selfishness. And, I just, I just hate it. I hate it. Every day I just look around and scratch my head thinking, why do we have to suffer through this world, the way it is, and the people's attitudes? And it just takes a toll on you if you've ever had this kind of experience to make sense of why we're here, why we have to come back here. Well, anyway, so I'm in Denver, Colorado. Now, mind you, I'm 13 years old. And I met young people, young and old, all over this world. Um, I made a little group of friends, and they too, battled asthma. Some of them have eczema. Some of them were there, just trying to learn to cope and learn more about their eczema and how to take care of that. Well, which was a little strange, but we had this gentleman that invited my mom and myself to like an intake meeting of new patients that were entering the hospital. And we're sitting there on this couch, and he says, now I'm going to ask you a series of questions that may sound really strange to you, but just answer them the best that you can and as honest as you feel you're able to answer these questions. So, Mom and I are sitting in this room, and remind you, I had not spoke to my mom about this incident, okay, by this point. So we're sitting on the couch, and the man's question was, during an asthma episode, have you ever seen something or hear something that that you felt was like a hallucination or something? And I looked over at my mom, and I said, yes, that I have recently went through something, but I didn't really understand what I saw. And I went ahead to describe what I saw. My mom just looks over at me and kind of grabs my hand, and she said, I know what you are saying is true. And I said, why? Because I couldn't understand why she would know that it's true, because she wasn't there. I didn't see her there. She said, I heard you say why 3 times. She said, I heard you say why, but why? And so that confirmed the fact that when I was there in that crystal beautiful room with God, when I said, why? Remember, he said, go back. And remember, I said, why? And then he said, go back. And I said, why? And then he said, it wasn't your time. You have things left undone. But why? I don't want to go. So Mom could confirm the fact that she heard me say why 3 times. Now, it gets a little more interesting. So this gentleman apparently later, because at 13 years old, I wasn't quite understanding why he was asking my mom and myself these questions and, interviewing us. But come to find out, see, back in 1985, this near-death experience that you hear of today, and some people, talk about it and some people don't talk about it, but it wasn't like mainstream. It was very rare to even have heard about a near-death experience. So it's like new to people talking about it was kind of new. So this gentleman that we talked to actually was interviewing kids and young and old people to help him collaborate a book. He actually wrote a book later on near-death experiences of patients that were in some type of trauma or chronic, illnesses or events. Some people in car accidents, some people drowning, some people through surgeries. A near-death experience happens to people, a vast amount of people have had near-death experiences. And some people just claim, oh, they're just hallucinating, just don't even worry about it, it's your medicine, it was a lack of oxygen, whatever. I've heard all that too, that especially in the churches, going to church, ministers have told me, we don't question things like that, and you just you probably were hallucinating, and a lack of oxygen, maybe it was the medication, whatever. But no, this is not. This is something that molds and shapes you, your thoughts, your beliefs. It changes you for the rest of your life, and you will recall this incident exactly the same, just like it happened yesterday. I mean, it's that vivid and clear, and it's something that you just won't mistake that it's oh, I had a hallucination. No, 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 no. This is deep seated. You feel this amount of love and happy and peace, and there's just no hallucination that's going to make you do all that. Well, let's go a little bit back to the story. Mom is acknowledging, yes, I heard you say why 3 times. Okay, so at that point, Mom starts sharing her, well, I had this dream that I could see your funeral. Now, just remember what I said I was wearing at my experience in the crystal room, Okay, so listen to this. Mom says, I had this dream that I was at your funeral. She said, and she named the people that she could see standing there looking at me. She says, and you were in a white gown. She said, and you had a pink corsage with little pink roses and baby's breath on your shoulder here. She said, and I could see, you're wearing a white gown, and it was really pretty. And I just looked at her like, yeah, I was wearing a white gown. I was still wearing it. So yeah, she seen in a dream what I was wearing and could see on myself. So I feel like the experience, there's just too much that confirms the experience really happened. Okay, so moving forward, while I was in Denver, and I just recently talked to my mom about this near-death experience and that I was going to be sharing it this weekend on this channel. And she said to me, do you remember what happened when you got to Denver about the little girl that was deaf? And I was like, oh yeah, I do remember now that you brought that up. And she said, you remember her name was Julie, and she was deaf, and she was so afraid to swim. She was afraid of the water. She said, and however, you went up and could talk to her just out of the blue. You could talk to her in sign language, and you helped her overcome her fear of water because you took the time to talk to her in sign language that I never knew you knew how to do that. She said, so I really believe that God put gifts in you to help certain times and individuals. And then I got to thinking about it, and it did happen. And I had never had any education on how to do sign language. But I did walk up to Julie and was just talking to her, however, and she laughed and was just so excited that someone her age, that she could share talking with, and took time to talk to her. And I do remember that experience very well. And so I feel like maybe, God was putting me in place to start the work. I feel like I had work ahead of me. It's like in my mind, I know I have some purpose, but a lot of times I can't understand what exactly the purpose is. Am I really fulfilling the purpose? What am I doing? So sometimes I question myself, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I feel like I have. So anyway, needless to say, after 9 months, I returned home, and you know, I came back with so much asthma education. When you're there, you have to learn just as much as what any RN would know: how to administer epinephrine, how to put yourself on oxygen, what is a taper dose, how to increase and decrease tapering prednisone usage, how to put together a weekly pill bottle, pack your pills for the week, because with asthma you have so much medications to take care of every day. um, so you learn, and you have these little flashcards that just because you got this one medication don't mean, well, here's a pill bottle, I'm going to take this pill. No, each time a medication was prescribed to you in Denver, you had these little flashcards, and you had to learn what was its brand name, what was its generic name, what are the side effects of this medicine, and what are the long-term effects of this medicine. So that way you could talk to the doctor. So when you go to a doctor, you could talk to him pretty much on his own level of these medications and what they're doing or not doing for you. So that was actually a positive experience, being there and going through that. One other thing I learned while I was in Denver, like I said before the interview with the man, I had never shared my near-death experience, because at that time I didn't even know that's what it was called, a near-death experience. I didn't know what. I just know something different happened, and I wasn't sure how to even talk to people about it. And but in Denver, I met numerous people, different age groups, different walks of life, and they too have had near-death experiences. But one thing I've learned: not every person's near-death experience is exactly the same. The parts that are the same, that we share alike, are the tunnel, the lights coming, the tunnel formation, and the bright light. That is something that nearly a lot of the near-death experience survivors have in common. The feelings of peace and the serenity and the love, every one of us feel that too. And we all pretty much are in agreement that we know that is God, the creator. We know without a doubt that is him. And we also know there is a secondary person, which is his son, Jesus. And some of us have had the opportunity to see him in the near-death experiences. And some of us will see him later in life, and which that happened to me. So it was in 2017, April 22nd, 2017, which is more recent. I had a kidney stone that blocked my kidneys, and I ended up being rushed to the ER, and I almost died. I had like an hour to live. They were going to rush me in for emergency surgery. But in 2017, Jesus appeared to me and spoke to me, and he was to the right hand side of me, and I said, have you come to take me home? Because I was so excited to see him, because I know what that meant. And he said, not yet. And I was thinking, because when you talk to God and Jesus, you don't speak to him through your words. You will just know. He doesn't even have to speak to you with his mouth. You just know what he's thinking and what you're thinking, and then you just have this conversation that way. Well, I was thinking, you've come to take me home now. And he said, no, not yet. And he said, but it won't be as long as it has been, just a little while longer. And he gave me a reason why I had to stay. And I'll discuss a little bit more about that in another video. But I had a reason that I had to stay a little longer. And I then asked him, was, would he be with me during, this outcome of what was going on with me at that time? And he says, I will not leave your side. I will be here through all of it. And I said, okay. And then the emergency surgery happened. And of course, he went away at that point. But I knew that I was going to live because I saw him, and he confirmed that no, he wasn't there to take me home yet. So I know I had some more time here on this earth to do something. So maybe it's this channel. Maybe it's something somebody in this channel or someone coming to this channel may need to hear this. Maybe you've had a near-death experience and you're not taking it quite so well. So let me go back to that exact thing. Near-death experience. Like I said, I was 13. I spent 9 months at National Jewish Asthma Center. I get home back to my small town, and a lot of my peers from school and stuff, they used to just tease me and taunt me terrible because they couldn't understand why I missed so much school. Why sometimes my face would be so fat like chipmunks. I would look like a chipmunk storing up for the winter or something because of the prednisone uses. And they couldn't understand the fact that a lot of times I couldn't do PE because of the breathing issues. But I was allergic to everything: grass, pollen, dog, cats, trees, anything with yellow pollen. I was allergic to everything. So it made my life very difficult because, you've got young kids that could go out at a teenage level and go mow grass or rake a yard or do something outside. And my mom was like, get in the house, get in the house. Says, I'm not going to go sit at the emergency room with you because you decide you want to come out here and mow grass and rake leaves. Get in the house. So everything I had to do was and being an only child, I had to learn to entertain myself in a house. So a lot of everything I did had to be indoors, and a lot of people, they just don't understand that. Another thing was, after the near-death experience, I became angry that, and then I got put into this quest, if God was so real, which I know I saw him and talked to him, but why did he make me come back? Why did I have to come back and live in this sick body and endure, the hate of the world and the way people are so, just mean to each other. And I could not understand that. And so I went for a lot of years. Some years went by where I would just, I was just angry, an angry person. And I started doing things I shouldn't have did, like drinking and, trying to experiment with some drugs and stuff, because I felt like, well, if I die, that's okay. I know where I'm going. And if I die, I'm happy. I'm ready to go, So there for some years, I took a terrible outlook. But